Yeah.
Now we got the camera on now.
Yeah,
Oh
now
my
it's
God, there's
working.
my shirt. I didn't button my shirt. Welcome again to another edition of Mark's Inspiration. The Power is Within podcast. Had a little technical difficulties there, but I think we got it straightened out. Thanks to my tech man Frank. Tonight we're going to have tech man. Where are you going?
In here real quick. I'll be back.
Okay, my guest may come. We're going to have Afi Kingdom. He's the author of over 30 books, international traveler, international player, master of seduction. He's going to be our guest tonight. I suppose he may be a little confused about the time because there's a 2 hour time difference between him and us. So he's not here yet, but we're going to press on here until he shows up. Afi actually gave me about 8 or 10 of his books I've read. And then when he's here a month and a half ago on our show, he autographed them for me, which I was very grateful for that. He's quite the fabulous writer. I've read hundreds of books in my life, and I really enjoy his books. And if you're a man that's wanting to learn about game and about women, if you want to get into the deepest, darkest parts of women, I suggest you read his books because he knows what he's talking about. Tech man here. So the first one that I read, he sent to me on, I think he sent it to me. What did he do? He sent that to me with an ebook, I think 3 or 4 books. It was the Dominance Mindset of a King, which I went ahead and bought because I like to read books in the print. So this is an excellent book for a person who's just beginning and needs to change his mindset, and he wants to improve his his confidence level. So you can kind of figure it out if you have dominance of a mindset of a king.
Show it again. Show it again.
Oh, it was backwards.
Yeah, now it's.
Now you can read
there
it a
you
little bit
go.
backwards. All right. So that's a good book there. I read that twice, I think. He's a hell of a good author. He'll be coming on here pretty soon. Wade Emery. What's up, Wade? How you doing? We're waiting for Afi to come. He's going to be our guest tonight. And also, as I read his books, I had forgotten so much because it's been years since I really was out there in the dating world, being the player that I was, until I was about 30. And as I read his books, I can tell that he really knows what he's talking about because it reminds me of things that I had forgotten long ago. And actually, I had kind of got back into, well, not got back into, I had never done it, but I tried to be the man that women say they want, or the society says is a good man and a good husband. And I'll just tell you honestly, I failed miserably with women because they don't want that. What a woman says she wants and what she actually wants is 2 different things. So as some of you know, I've been married more than once, and I played the part of the good husband and the good father, and they get bored pretty quick. I even had them tell me after I divorced them that I was a good husband and a good father, that I was just too good to him. Now you think, well, how can that be? Well, that's how it works. Before I was 30, I was quite the player, as Afi writes in these books. And when I read his books, I realized what I had forgotten long ago. The deal was when I turned about 30, I hit a little bit of a bottom. And I thought everything that I had done in my life, I kind of discarded it all. And even that with women, that really worked well. Well, I've kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater is what I did. But as I read Afi's books, I remembered these things worked. And it's not about treating women badly or being a jerk to them, although some women like that quite a bit. It's about centering in yourself, it is really about being yourself, but you want to be the self that you're happy with, the self that doesn't need a woman, that doesn't have to have a woman to be happy, that doesn't have to have a woman's adoration, admiration, or approval. And when you don't have to have it, you can get it because you don't even have to look for it. It just comes to you. Too many men these days focus on trying to get a woman. It's like we grow up with this Disney fantasy, and I heard it many times in my life. Well, you'll find a woman and you'll be happy. Well, if you're not happy now, I guarantee you when you get a woman, you're probably going to be more miserable than you were before you met her. Yeah, you'll have that elation and then that momentary honeymoon phase, but soon that wears off. And I know a lot of you guys out there think that if you just got the right woman, if you just got this beautiful woman, everything would be great. Well, that's a fallacy, but that's what we're kind of taught from the time we're raised. But it's not reality at all. Now, you can be happy with a woman, but you got to be happy by yourself first. And what I like about Afi's books is is he talks more about centering in yourself and not making the woman the putting her on a pedestal. Because I'll guarantee you, you put her on a pedestal, she's going to fall off. She doesn't want to be on a pedestal. Contrary to what we're kind of taught, that we should praise her and put her up above things and not ever let her do anything for us. We were talking about that today, about how women want to serve you. Now, some women kind of look at that like, oh, what do you mean? We don't want to serve you. That's subservient. That's humiliating. But a lot of times a woman will say, hey, let me do that for you. And say, oh, no, I can take care of it myself. And we're kind of taught as men to not let women do anything for us. But when a woman does that, she invests in you. It actually makes her like you more. Contrary to what we might think is, well, if I do things for myself and show her that I don't need her in that respect, she will appreciate me. Well, you don't want to get to a point where you need a woman, but you need to allow her to invest in you and do things for you, because women feel good about that. It makes them feel good. And as a man in return, you like to make her happy. Well, you can't make her happy, but if you're happy and you're on your purpose and your mission, she's happy being with you. And that's the way it works. What's the old saying? Happy wife, happy life? No, I don't think so. Stay on your mission and your purpose, and if you're happy, she'll be happy with you. If she's not, she'll hit the door. And you got to always be ready to let them go. And that's the one thing that I get out of all of Affy's books is what's important is how you feel about yourself. Not so much about how she feels about you or how you feel about her. Feelings have very little to do with it. Your thinking and what you do is the most important thing. Your feelings, come and go. And that's where a woman has a lot of feelings, and her feelings will go up and down according a lot of times to her menstrual cycle. So she wants you to be her rock and her fortress. She doesn't want another emotional person in her life. She wants someone who can control their emotions. Now, I'm not talking about stuffing your emotions. I'm talking about being stoic. And a lot of people have the wrong idea about being stoic. Being stoic is not suppressing your emotions, ignoring your emotions, or stuffing your emotions. It's about learning how to control your emotions, expressing your emotions in a healthy, logical, rational way at the proper time and place. And I read another author, Roseman, wrote a book called True Male Nature 101 about what young men from single mother homes need. And he talks about there's nothing much more dangerous than a man that can't control his emotions. And this happens a lot of times when a boy is raised up in a single mother home without guidance from a man. He's a man and he has the physical strength of a man, but he doesn't have the emotional stability to be able to control his emotions when he gets into a dangerous situation. And he has or an upsetting situation. He has a tendency to react. And that's why we have these school shooters and different things like this. These young men don't know how to control their emotions. So they're being bullied at school. And they get upset, they get angry, they don't know how to deal with it, they can't deal with it, and then they go do what they do. And a lot of people get hurt. As where if they had a man or a masculine role model in their life to show them how to handle these emotions, how to deal with these emotions, they would learn how to control them and realize they're just feelings, they're just emotions, they come and they go. And that's the attributes of a man that is different from a woman. They, at least they're supposed to, be able to control their emotions in all situations. As I said, that doesn't mean that you stuff your emotions or you don't feel them. It just means that you feel the emotion, but you take a rational, logical action. I've been in many dangerous situations in my life where I acted rationally and logically, and then after the situation was over, I actually felt the nervousness of the fear. So as a man, you should be able to handle those situations, because if someone breaks in your house and you're up there with your wife, you don't want to be so afraid you don't know what to do, because she's depending on you. Even if you have a weapon up there, you still have to be calm enough to make rational decisions, because you may go downstairs and find out that it's one of your children's friends, and you don't want to be making a mistake there and firing off a round at them just because you're afraid, you're nervous, and you're not thinking rationally, you're acting on the emotion of fear. Do you think that men in wars don't have fear? Of course they do. But they're able to suppress that fear and do what they have to do. Now, of course, a lot of soldiers have PTSD because they've had to suppress emotions and weren't ever able at the time to feel them, and they didn't express them later on. But yet they did what they had to do, and that's a trait of a man, once again, as I said, that we can do that women generally can't do. Now, of course, there are outliers and there's exceptions, but in general, that's the way it works. That's why we have a lot of men on the front line and very few women on the front line. I'm sure it's probably less than 1%. I think is he there?
Yeah.
I think my guest has arrived, so I just click him in here.
Yeah, so go down to his thing.
Right there.
And then go up a little bit.
Okay.
It'll say add to stream.
Right there, yeah.
Yeah, just click it and then you'll be able to add.
So I'm learning. There he is.
Hey, what's going on, Mark?
Headphones on.
Hang on. Hang on, F. I'm just learning. My son is teaching me how to do these things by myself. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound good. Hey, glad you could make it. I was wondering about you. I was going without you.
No, you good.
I figured you'd show up. I was talking about this book right here.
Oh, okay. What's going on? So how are you?
I'm good. That was the first one I read.
Yeah.
So I was talking about, and I also mentioned Roseman, his book, True Male Nature 101, was talking about how men need to learn to control their emotions and how a lot of times men from single mother homes don't have a masculine role model. And they're kind of dangerous because they have the physical strength of a man, but they don't know how to control their emotions. So when something happens, they have a tendency to act in a way that is detrimental to themselves and maybe someone else.
Right.
So how you doing today? What's up?
Man, I'm doing good, just grinding, man. I wasn't feeling well earlier, but the energy brought me here. Don't even worry about it. We're gonna have a good fire session. Shout out to Wade in the chat room.
Yeah, he's yeah. So what? Well, let me ask you. I didn't really get a chance to talk to you too much when you were here. Whatever prompted you to start writing? Is that something you thought about when you was a kid, or what?
Yeah, writing. I always was into writing. I used to write poetry and stuff like that. Yeah, I used to do storyboards and write like that. Like I would have these like little movies in my head. I would draw out all the characters and all of this stuff. Yeah. I was always creative. I always used to draw, paint, but like the writing, yeah, I always wanted to be an author, bro.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I never thought about it much when I was a kid. I have written a couple books and published them, but I did used to draw, like you said. I'd forgotten about that, and I'd forgotten I used to write some poetry too. That's one thing I like about your books is I read them. It reminds me of things I did when I was a kid that I completely forgot about, or even when I was younger. It brings up things that I'd forgotten I'd even done.
Yeah, I debuted the new one. Let me see.
Oh yeah,
we got the new one. What happened?
Yeah. I don't know.
Froze out a little bit.
Yeah, it froze.
Hold on, let me just say.
It's just the internet.
It's the internet.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, you're good now. Yeah, bring it on.
Yeah, man, we got the new joint. Yeah, but I was always into writing, bro, and I always wanted to be an author, but I didn't know the process of it. Like, I don't know if you know Ron Wills, but I have booked the consultation. I have booked. You should check him out. I think you guys are very similar. I had booked a consultation with him about writing books and stuff. So, even though I was watching the content, YouTube, I was still concerned about other stuff. So,
yeah.
So, yeah, I always wanted. I just didn't know the process of it, and then when I figured out that you can do it by yourself, then I knew that I could make one of my dreams come true, and it was kind of interesting because um, I feel like the main reason why a lot of people don't publish books is because of the scarcity, and they feel like they feel they're scared of how people are going to take them.
Right.
And so when you do YouTube, um, it eliminates that because people are already talking stuff. I don't know. Have you got anybody talking crazy to you yet? Because you're such a positive guy. I don't even know,
Uh,
but
you mean like a hater?
like a hater, like a troll. Have you had that yet?
I get them once in a while. I get them. I had one today that was because I was comparing. I made a video comparing Tate to Gandhi and Jesus and who's the other one? William Wallace. Now, I wasn't. I was comparable their lives because in this respect that they both spoke out against the powers that be at the time. They both were persecuted, or they all were persecuted for their beliefs, and they all had a message of freedom. Now, I wasn't saying, of course, Tate and Jesus are exactly alike. I was just talking about the comparison. So, yeah, I had a guy come on there and he was making sarcastic remarks about me comparing, you know how they do. I don't. What amazes me is why can't a person just kind of say, "Hey, well, I disagree. This is why I disagree," and have a decent? But they always have to come on with some sarcastic bull crap. I mean, I can see where somebody would see, but I was talking about the commonalities, not that they were alike as people, but the commonalities, because all great people throughout history who have went against the system of the times have been at the time they were doing it were considered criminals. Many were put in jail. They were ridiculed and publicly humiliated and eventually killed. So, regardless of whether you believe in his message or don't or like him or not, I was just making a comparison of the commonalities of people who speak out against the governments of the time. But yeah, people, yeah, and that was one of them. Yeah, I've had a few, probably not as many as you've had, but yeah.
That one almost don't count, bro. Because if you talk about Andrew Tate, you're gonna get a hater
I
automatic,
knew I knew when I made it I was going to get some flack, so I expected it. But that's okay. Everybody's got their own opinion. I
especially
just like to have reasonable discussions with people. But as you know, a lot of the haters are extremely unreasonable. They don't. I tell you what I believe it is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. They're not doing anything with their lives, and they get a feeling of power when they can come on here and make some hateful or sarcastic remark. The same people that do that would probably never do it in front of to your face, but they can do it now through the internet, and they're protected, they're safe, and I think it gives them a feeling of control because they probably feel like their life is not, they have no control, and this makes them feel like they can do something that makes a difference, for lack of a better way to say it.
I would agree with you, but I would say this though, and I learned this from because there's some sick people, bro.
Yeah,
Like I didn't realize how like sick and devious people could be for no reason. Like I know on a personal level for gain, but it's people who just like want to do it just to do it, bro. And I didn't really know people were like that. I
for
mean, I know you can call it naive or whatever, but I
yeah.
didn't. I see myself and other people too much, and I know I would never like take pride in certain things, and so it's kind of hard for me to even get the concept of certain shit that's going on between other people. But it happens, bro.
Yeah. Did you say that people would do for a gain to get something? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, like I
Oh,
don't agree
okay.
with it, but I understand it. Like I don't
Yeah.
agree, like being doing shady stuff, but at the same time,
But see, I know you, we've talked enough that I know I know some of how you think. And you and I both know that there's no gain there at all. They may make a momentary gain, but
mhm,
you know what happens down the road.
right?
Eventually comes back to you. And that's what people don't realize. Even though so many people will say, yeah, what goes around comes around, or you reap what you sow, or karma, if they really understood that, they wouldn't do the things they do. The problem is the consequences are not immediate in the manifest world. I believe it's immediate within you, but it takes time for the consequences to manifest in the outer world. So that's why people don't pay heed to that law
Yeah, yeah. There's no repercussions for people's actions.
immediately.
Hmm.
But they do come back. You may get away with the laws of the land, but eventually it all comes back. What's the old when the chickens come home to roost? You ever heard that one?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what that means. So whatever you put out there comes back. And that's the one thing that drew me to you is you're a giver, I'm a giver, and you realize that whatever you put out there is going to come back to you. And the more goodwill you put out there, then that comes back to you. Now there are going to be people that take advantage of that. I'm sure you've run into them. I have too. They want to take and take, but when you realize that that's all they want, then you just eliminate those people you get away from. So what's
Mm.
up,
And,
Jawad? Jawad's joined us. Glad
uh,
you're here.
what's up, Joe? I will even add to this. And this is with MLD. Well, I see MLD said this on a stream. I think it might have been on Fresh and Fit, and he was just like, the majority of people or IQs are low, man. Like you, sometimes. So it's like sometimes you are who you're around. So then the people you're around,
Exactly.
if everybody might be at different levels, but they're still at a certain level, and it's true. Like I don't. I think I figured out when I start consulting guys, bro. When I started consulting guys, I just was just like, some guys really don't get this shit. Like they really don't. Like you can talk to them, you listen. It's just like wow. Like you just think to yourself, like they really don't get it
They're just on a
because
different
some of the
level of
information that you
conscience.
take, some of the information that you have, you take for granted because you use it all the time.
Exactly.
You,
No, I have
you
to.
use it all the time, so you don't think it's no big deal, and it's like no. Uh, So
Yeah.
I learned that from just dealing with, and then you just deal with people from all over the world too. So then you really make the connection, like, okay, I'm not really tripping. Like this is a real thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard him say that about the IQ, and I never thought about it too much, but I believe he's right because some of the people, like you said, I can't grasp why they can't see certain things, why they seem to be blinded to it. And I'm not saying that to belittle anyone, but it's like, can't you see? It's almost like, and I say it all the time, most people don't think for themselves. They think, but all they do is regurgitate what they've heard in the news or what someone's told them. They never sit down and really contemplate their life, what's going on in their life, why this is happening. And one of the words I think a person needs to take out of the vocabulary is blame. Because if you blame everybody else, then you're a victim. And if you're a victim, then of course you can't do anything about your life. Most people don't want to take responsibility and say, how did I get here? How did I put myself into this situation, whether it be good or bad? So just to sit down and think and contemplate. People they always have to have something going on, some radio, social media, something in front of their face. Very difficult for people nowadays just to sit in the quiet and meditate, contemplate, whatever you'd like to call it. Iceberg is here. Thanks for coming in. Jawad says, I remember that MLD mentions that. Yeah, he does. And I forget your videos. He says, your videos have helped me a lot. Yeah, his videos have helped me a lot too. Also, the books. You got to read them books. There's something about reading, and you tell me what you think about this, Haffy.
Mm-hmm.
Reading a book, it's almost like your mind gets exercised like a muscle. Now, I like to listen to books. I do that too. But there's just something about reading them. When I read books on a steady, when I have a steady diet of reading books every day, my mind seems to be, I'll say, stronger and seems to function better.
I was raised on reading, so reading was never a thing that I dread doing. It was more of a. I was taught that reading was a way to open up in a universe that was made for you, that was already written, but it was made for you to experience.
Hmm. Yeah, I missed that lesson. I, I wasn't much for read. Honestly, I didn't start. The only books I ever read when I was a teenager was what was it called? The Hobbit. I read those. Usually read them when I was high. And from
Mm-hmm.
then, I didn't read anything until I got in my 20s, and I started reading books on. I read this book that was produced by some Russian scientists about mental visualization and programming your mind because I was boxing and I wanted to use that to, which it really does work, use that to be a better fighter. And but when I turned 30, I'd kind of hit a bottom and started looking at life differently. I then started reading, and I've read since then. I've read, I don't know, maybe I don't know, hundreds of books. Some of them over 100 times, read and listened to them, and I think it's just it's a wonderful tool. It amazes me how people will go to the gym and exercise their muscles, and they know how valuable that is, but they don't realize that their brain and their mind is kind of like a muscle, and you need to exercise that too. I've read that the average American watches 4 to 6 hours of TV every night. I don't watch TV at all. Occasionally, I'll watch a movie on Amazon Prime or something like that, but otherwise, I like documentaries. Sometimes I'll watch those. I watch YouTube videos such as yours and other ones that help me learn and move in the direction that I want to go.
Mm-hmm. I got a video you're gonna really like. It's long too. I ain't even
Okay.
gonna tell you what it is. Hey, in the chat, Jay Watt, I appreciate the videos helping you, bro. You gotta start. I got too many secret watchers. Y'all gotta start saying what's up when we doing our shows and stuff like that. People be hella familiar with me. I want to be hella familiar with you guys too. So if you
Yeah,
haven't experienced none of my books, hit me on AFI Kingdom Books, and I send you the book that he showed you. I send you that one.
yeah. If you guys weren't out there, we wouldn't be here because what would be the point? Nobody would be listening. Yeah,
Hmm.
here's the educator here. That's a
Did
good
you
one
did you
too.
crack that new one?
No, I tell you, I started to read the preamble, the forward of it, but I haven't got into it yet. I'm still
Hmm.
reading. I'm reading this one right now, about halfway through it. The International Player.
Oh
That's the
yeah,
one I'm reading now. So
yeah. People
that's a good
slept on
one
that. That
too.
was a good book right there. People slept on that one.
Yeah, I tell you what my favorite. I told you what my favorite was when you were here. Um, this one here. This book here,
Yeah.
Tales Tales from Her Desires. That's one of my favorite books. And I'll tell you what, you guys, if you really want to learn the nature of women, all of the books will help you there. But this one here to me really refreshed my memory about how women are. Because what he speaks about doing in this book, I know is true because I've done it myself. Not to the extent and the volume that you have done it, Affy, but I've done enough to know what you're talking about is true. And it's funny because it almost by reading the life you've lived, it like I said, it refreshed and revitalized my mind. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. That's how they are. And it's actually the opposite. Women are almost the opposite of the way we're taught they are from the time we woke up by the time the time we grew up. I mean, they're just completely different. But to the world, they present this soft, um, perfect little rose flower or something, sunflower, like they're dainty and this and that, but they're really not that way at all. But that's the
Mhm.
way they want to be perceived. But I think a lot of the reason that is because of the restrictions society has put on them, and if they act this certain way, then they're a 304 or whatever it happens to be. They're not really allowed by the dictations of society to express themselves like they would were there not these unwritten restrictions.
I would say two things to both points. The first one is about the writing um, in the reading. I get exactly what you're saying because sometimes it takes for you to read something. Sometimes it takes for you to read something to yourself to learn what you know.
Yeah, experience plus the educational knowledge that you put out. Yeah, that to me, I combine when I say that it's combined. I call that wisdom. It's one thing to read it in a book; it's another thing to experience. But when you read about it and then experience it, that creates wisdom in a person.
Hmm. And then the second thing is with the women. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the reason why. We have red pill rage. Is exactly the reason why we have heartbroken men. It's not the fact that women are like the way that they are, bro. It really boils down somewhere in another lane, bro. It's not the fact that they are the way they are. It's the fact that we're taught differently
Yeah,
and we're disappointed of it.
exactly. That's exactly it. Yeah. I mean, we have this certain construct. We think women are like this. I mean, but when you start thinking, I've often wondered about my mom. I'm like, I wonder about my mom. But my mom was a woman. She was a young lady at the time. And the young ladies do what they do. It doesn't make her a bad person if she was promiscuous. I don't know if she was or not, but of course I've wondered about it. Um, but you have to remember your mother at one time was a young lady and she had fantasies and dreams and desires just like all young ladies do. But a lot of people don't want to think about that, especially when it comes to their mom or their grandma. I mean, I lived with my grandma for a while, thought a lot of her, but she was a woman. So it's really the man is the problem. He doesn't want to accept that women are like this. And that's one thing I like about your books is you reveal the nature of women and you don't reveal it in a way like they're 304s or they're bad or they're terrible or oh, let's swear off women. You just tell it like it is. But for the person who doesn't know that or never experienced that, I see where it would be hard for them to believe once they've been educated by the system or programmed by the system to believe that they're a certain way.
And some people will never believe it, bro. Even if you teach it to them, you show it to them, like their experience don't match it. What they seen doesn't match it, so they
Yeah,
don't they
yeah,
don't they don't make the connection. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. To them, it's not the truth. It's not their truth. They can't believe that a woman would ever be like that. And I think that's where we have a lot of problem too in the red pill community. And any kind of dating on there is what people don't realize is everyone has different experiences. Um, but we have arguments back and forth about someone shares his experience and then somebody else has a different experience and they act like that person's lying or he doesn't know what he's talking about, but they only go from their experience. And two, we speak in generalizations, of course, but of course all women may not be like that. I don't think they are. There are exceptions, but in general, as men have certain characteristics, as do women. General, there are some men that are completely different, but in general, we talk about men and we talk about women. It's not all women, but they have that nature. And what I think we need to do as men and women too is accept each other's nature because there's things about women we don't like and there's things about men that women don't like. But wouldn't it be boring if they were exactly like us, if women were just like us? So, I mean, there would
this
be
is
no mystery.
this what I don't understand, and this is like this is some of that low IQ shit we were just talking about. Um, if I see some, like, if I'm good at something, if I see you're good at something, instead of trying to pick it apart and say why or why isn't it, you know, true or whatever, why not ask how do you do it? I don't understand what's wrong with people, bro. I don't understand how that's not the go-to answer. Like, how is that just not natural for someone to teach me how? How is that? Like, why do you have to be a smart person to feel like that? Why is that not just a natural thing for people to do?
Well, I think it threatens their reality because if you have a different way or a different idea than they have, and if they ask you and keep an open mind, they may have to change what they believe, and a lot of people are afraid to do that. Let me
Mm.
get the chat here. We got I can't really see it. We got B boy Red, welcome, and
What's up, big
Colin.
boy?
Colin, glad you could make it. All right. Yeah, I think it threatens their reality because a person has a certain set of beliefs, and those are pretty grounded. And if something threatens those beliefs, if they're not open minded, and most people, who was a thorough said, contempt before investigation keeps a man in everlasting ignorance. And so, what people do when you say something or you tell them something that threatens their beliefs, they have contempt. Well, that can't be because they've never experienced it. Instead of being open minded, ask you, well, how did that happen or how did that work for you or explain that to me? Most people, and maybe it is a low IQ thing, are not willing to keep an open mind enough to say, hey, well, what happened with you? Tell me that. They would rather dismiss it, say you're stupid, ignorant, you don't know what you're talking about, etc. And I think there's a lot of people in the red pill community do that. Some of the guys, they say, oh, they're all 304s, they're all this, they're all going to cheat on you. I don't think so. Maybe a lot of them will, but there's got to be exceptions out there. So, and what is the black pill? I don't know. They swear off men or whatever, MGTOW. And I'm not bad mouthing those guys. I can certainly understand why some men would swear off women. After you go through a couple of heartbreaks, that sometimes might be the easier thing to do than to put your heart out there again. But I'll tell you this, I've had a few heartbreaks, and I'm sure you have too. You're never going to know the exquisite joy and pleasure that I've known, and probably you have too, without putting yourself out there, because it's one thing to have sex. Okay, that's easy. But to actually connect with someone on a, I don't know, for lack of a better term, a spiritual level, an intimate level, and have sex with them, that is far surpasses any kind of a high or I ever got from any drugs or drinking or anything like that. It's just something and I'm not talking about when you get off. I'm talking about the whole experience. The getting off might be the icing on the cake, but for me, it's actually, I prefer to wait on that because the experience is almost, I don't know how to explain it. It's beyond, now I didn't experience this when I was younger, when I was just out there hitting and getting. But as I got older and I tried to form connections, you have to open yourself up. And that would be the only time I would say you need to be vulnerable. They push this vulnerability. But I don't mean vulnerable and sharing your heart on the sleeve, but I mean actually opening yourself up to connect with that person. And it doesn't have to be in words. It's a part of your being. It's a state that you get into when you're talking to them or when you have the physical intimacy of making love to them.
Well, a real heartbreak comes from love. And some cats haven't experienced love, bro. They've only experienced infatuation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk about love then. We're good. Now, my idea of love is it has very little to do with the feeling. I mean, like and I learned this probably about 30 years ago or 30 something like that. A person can tell you that they love you. When they used to say it to me, I would think somebody I didn't know, how can you say it to me? Because I always thought love was like with a woman and you have sex with her and that's love and being together and that. But to me, love is an action. Like to me, you come in here, I asked you to come here and you did, came on my show. To me, that's an act of love. To me, love is a verb. It's an act. Because let's say you get married or you're with a woman for 6 months. The infatuation stage wears off. Okay. And there's going to be times when you don't feel like you love that woman. Right. But you get up as a man and you do what you're supposed to do. And then if you have kids, you take care of those kids. You go to work. You do what you have to do as a man because you love your wife and your family, even though you don't feel like you love her. Maybe sometimes you feel like, and I've been married several times, sometimes you feel like I don't want to do this, or I don't know why I'm with her. Why am I with this woman? But you realize that's a feeling that passes. And then you do what you're supposed to do. And to me, that's love. Like with my 6 kids, did I feel like getting them up to school every morning when they didn't want to get out of bed? Do I feel like taking them to the doctor when they're sick? Do I feel like taking care of them, getting up in the middle of the night? I mean, I could go on and on. No, I don't always feel like that. It's not an obligation. It's what I do because I love them. It has nothing to do really with feelings.
I would say that you need to experience love though, so you can know what to yearn for and what to avoid if that's what you need to do.
How do you differentiate between infatuation and love?
Because love is earned. Infatuation isn't earned. You can be infatuated with somebody just from them sitting down with you for a little bit and smelling them and talking to them for a little bit.
Yeah, but for the men, so they don't get confused, because a lot of times that happens. I think I read that in your book. A guy thinks he's in love, but he's really just infatuated with her. So how can he not, or how can he keep from fooling himself? How does he know when he really loves her?
Um, how does a man really know he loves a woman? Good question. Um, I got a good answer. What's up, Carl? Put a fire sign in the chat. I got a good answer. So how do you know you really in love with a woman? You gotta lose her. You don't really know until you don't have access to it how much you appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've experienced that on the other side when they lost me. Then they realized how much they appreciated me. I knew when I was with them that I loved them. I have a tendency to, I've made the mistake of being too good to the women I've been in relationships with. I've been real good at hitting and getting, but when it comes to relationships, I have a tendency to, how do I say, just be good, too good to them. I've had them tell me that afterwards. You're just too good to us.
Hmm.
I don't do it because I've already got them. So I'm not trying to, it's like I was married in long term relationships. It's not like I do it because I feel like I have to do it to please them or to make them happy because I already have them. They're happy. But what I have them is what mistakes I made, and maybe some guys in the audience have made this mistake too, or they can not do it. I have a tendency to give too much. Like when they do something I appreciate, instead of doing the 2/3, I don't know if you ever heard of that 2/3 rule. I have a tendency to want to do more for them than what they did for me because I appreciate what they did for me. Now I can do that with a man, and he doesn't disrespect me or think anything. Actually, he appreciates me more. But when it seems to me, when I do that with a woman, they see that as you're like trying to supplicate or get their approval. So I don't. Yeah, that hasn't worked well for me.
You know, that's why my second to last book, bro, is gonna be Finesse Game 3. If I was a bitch, bro, because they don't know how to do this shit correctly, bro, and it's so annoying sitting on the sidelines and watching them make so many bad plays, bro.
Yeah.
Instead of women don't understand the power of stroking a man's ego for one. Let's just
There you
start.
go.
We could just start it in right there. Just that part alone, bro. Like
Yeah.
women don't even understand the power of stroking a man's ego during sex, bro. That's like do you realize how effective the things that you say? Like,
I
how
know.
do you not know that? But you be on top talking about deeper. Oh, I don't like the way you doing it. That ain't.
Well, tell me this then. You've experienced Latin American women. I think they know the power of how to stroke a man's ego because I've experienced the Latinas.
They do
I mean,
know.
not the ones from the U.S. Maybe they're like, but the ones if you go down to Colombia or Latin America, they know how to make a man feel good just with their word to stroke their ego. Now you got to watch it. Sometimes they're doing it because maybe they want something, but they know how to make a man. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
but
know.
it's better. It's better that is because that shows you that it's actually a skill that can be taught. It's a skill.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a skill. Well, do you think though that women in the West don't want to do that because they feel like they're having to supplicate to men and they've been programmed to be more dominant and career orientated, so they feel like that's a weakness. When in reality, it's a strength that's been forgotten here. I think.
This is another hack for women, and this is a hack for you guys because you can tell the women this. Okay, think about how higher a woman goes off up into your rotation or that you deal with when she appreciates you for treating her good, bro. A lot of women don't know how to
Yeah.
see. It's like say you take a woman out to a 3-star restaurant, right? You take her out to a 3-star restaurant. She gonna complain that she's used to 5-star restaurants, right? But you're used to 5-star restaurants too. You just tested her to see if she's ready for 5-star restaurants
Yeah.
from you. Because what's gonna happen if you take her to the 3-star and she's a little dismissive or this is it? Guess what you're not gonna do? You're not gonna expose her to your 5-star experience, bro. If I was a bitch, I gotta be one. I gotta show these. I gotta show them how to do it, bro.
Yeah. Well, things are just so different now here, I know, than it was back in, of course, I think I'm a little older than you are, but back in the 70s and 80s, and I forgot how women were back then. My first girlfriend of 5 years, I started dating when I was 15, and we broke up. She was older, 2, 3 years older than me. She would make me scrapbooks, cook me dinner. I mean, she actually did stuff for me besides, you know, the sexual intimacy. I mean, but I've forgotten all about that until I'm on a show or something and people are talking about how a woman does this or does that. I was at a gender reveal party with my son the other day. I mentioned this on the Dragon Ship, and there was a lot of people there. And I was going to get a plate, and my son's girlfriend offered to get a plate for me. Now, what do you think I think? And I let her do it. What do you think I think about her now? Huh? But a
And
lot of,
that's
yeah,
such a simple gesture too, though.
yeah, but yet that made a hell of an impression on me. But a lot of women think that that's being subservient, or I'm not going to get his play. I mean, but see, I think highly of her just because of that one simple little gesture. And that goes along with what you said about stroking a man's ego. It's similar to that. She went out of her way to take notice. I didn't ask her, she offered to do that. I mean, see, that means a lot to me. And if women would, like, yeah, if you write a book, if women would learn, they don't have to try to be a man to get men to do things, to try to force their way in society. They have femininity, they have persuasion. Throughout centuries, women have used that to empower men to conquer nations or to disempower men to where they lost everything. Look throughout the pages of history. If that's a weakness, then I guess I'm crazy. That's a strength, but it seems to be forgotten here in the US anyway.
Hmm. I feel like guys is never gonna really get it until they travel and stuff like even though we tell them, bro, they're not really taking they not, bro. They're not getting the full grasp of it. They looking at it like the women are like sexy and they gonna call you poppy and stuff. Like, nah, bro. Like it's just different when you deal with somebody who was raised that the man is the leader, bro.
Yeah.
That one thing changes everything, bro.
Yeah, let me get
That
the
one
chat.
thing changes everything.
We got HT in here. Hey,
Hey, what's
welcome.
up,
Glad
brother?
you're here. Yeah. Yeah. And you're never going to get anywhere here being angry at the women, or it's, that's not going to accomplish anything. It's certainly not going to accomplish what they want. They want to be with the woman. They want to be able to deal with women and understand women. Although they'll never understand women completely, unless you have to be a woman to do that. But you can actually understand enough to learn how to get along with women and see what makes them tick. But a person I think people say that you should never be yourself. Well, I think you need to be the self that that you want to be, or that you came here to become. And when you're that self, everything else works out. You got to be centered in yourself. And you have to be the kind of man. What's the old cliche? Be the man that all women want and all men, or no, yeah, all women want and all men want to be like. There's a
Mhm.
little bit of truth to that. People say they're being themselves, but a lot of times they're not. They're just being supplicating to the woman. They're doing things for her that they wouldn't do for their buddy, but they're doing it for her because they want something from her. And a woman has an intuition, she can smell that. It's one thing to do something for a woman because you want to do it because you want to do it. It's another thing to do it, like take her out to a 5 star because you want to get something from her. But if you want to go out to a 5 star and eat because you want to go and you want to take a beautiful lady with you, that's a whole different thing. See, but if you're doing it to impress her, they know it. And that's what doesn't work. And then guys they feel like they get taken advantage of, but they're the ones that instigated that and created that situation to allow her to take advantage of themselves.
Check this shit out, bro. Submission is so much of a kryptonite for a man that it can be sold, bro. The energy of submission could literally be sold. You know how they say sex sells? You can sell submission without the sex, bro, and it'll sell more.
Oh
Because look,
yeah.
because look how scarcity it is now.
You know this. After 6 months, I've been with some beautiful women, and you have too. After 6 months, you get tired of the sex unless she's cooperative or, i.e., submissive. You never get tired of submissiveness because that's a trait that you don't. The new doesn't wear off of that.
Mm-hmm.
But see, they don't like that word. If we could change that word to cooperativeness, a cooperative person, it's basically the same thing. As far as I'm concerned, if she cooperates with me, then she's submitting. And that's not to say that a woman you don't want to hear her opinion, because as you and I know, women have excellent intuition. If I were in a business deal and the woman was there listening and we finished, and she said, she doesn't tell me what to do, but she says, something doesn't feel right about that. I would take heed to that because if I trusted her, we had a good relationship, she was straight with me. She's picking something up that I didn't pick up. And you really need to listen. Women have their place and men have their place. And when you get them two together, working together, it's a powerful team.
Yeah. You know what, Mark? I'm gonna have you write a forward in one of my books, bro.
I'll be glad to.
I'm gonna tell you which one it is too.
All right.
Keys to Masculinity, one that I got this belt on.
What is it?
That,
Keys to masculinity?
yeah.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, I'll be
it's
glad to.
yeah, it's the boxing. It's the boxing cover, bro.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what they give out. They give out belts now at boxing, amateur boxing matches. They used to give out trophies when I was a kid, but now they give out the belts. Yeah, my
Mm-hmm.
son Claude, he's going to fight next weekend, so I'll be going to see that. Looking
You
forward
gonna
to
take
that.
it?
Yeah, we'll
You
video
gonna
it.
post it?
Yeah, we'll
Oh.
post it. Hopefully, it won't get taken down for promoting violence. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, YouTube is supposed to have a lot of new terms and policies. I ain't went through them all.
I haven't either. I heard they did too, but I haven't read them. This book here, Conversation with Souls. Now, this
Mm-hmm.
book is deep. I don't know if I'd recommend this for someone who is a beginner
No,
because I don't know if they're going to understand it.
yeah.
But it's a great book. What's this other one?
That'd be my maybe my favorite one.
Yeah. Then we got Tales from the Underworld. This
Mm-hmm.
one here.
That's the personal one. Working on
Yeah.
part 2 right now.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah,
Part 2 is a little different though, because I changed I changed the vibe of it. Uh, it's not so dark. Well, it kind of is dark, but it's not so dark. But it's a little more fun. It's a little more fun. I'm showing the in the underworld there's the dark side, but there's the pleasure side. So I kind of touch on the pleasure side a little more than the dark side.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now, when you write, when you write, do you just start? I'll tell you what I do. When I sit down to write, and I haven't written as much as you, I don't worry much about mistakes. I just let it flow.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I catch myself, oh, maybe I shouldn't write that. I used to stop and I don't do that. I just go ahead and write it. I can always edit it later. But sometimes you write something, you think, well, maybe I shouldn't mention that. And then I just keep going anyway. Because if I stop, it gets me out of the flow. Because once you start, which sometimes for me it's hard to start, but when I start, I get into a flow. So I don't worry about mistakes. I just let it come out, and it just comes as you start writing. I don't know, how does that work for you? Do you stop and correct mistakes, or you just let it go and then come back later and try to put it all together? Or?
No, I just let it go. I mean, like literally right now, I got 2 documents of books up right here. Like it
Yeah,
never stops. If I were to screen my share, you'd see that I'm still going back and forth with 2 books. I just go for it. But I would tell you this though, I don't sit down and write books in that form or fashion. I will manifest and think about an idea all the way through before I start.
yeah. Oh, do you?
Yeah, I don't just write and then keep come up with more shit. When I start it is when it's already done.
Ah,
And
okay.
yeah, and then usually what I'll do is I'll do 2 things. I'll do 3 things every time I write a book. First thing, I come up with the ending first. So it's basically it's like a navigation. So I
Yeah,
start as soon as I start off, I know where I'm going.
yeah.
So I start off with the ending first. Two, um, I think about how I want to tell the story as far as like am I teaching? Because some books, just like you see how those tales from the underworld and shit like that, conversation with, like I'm real vulgar. I
Yeah.
use a lot of slang. That's on purpose because I want it to feel different.
Yeah.
And the keys to your crown, and I don't use profanity in those books at all. I want it to feel different. Um, I want the reader to have a different experience when you in the underworld. It's raw. I'm not gonna just tell you it's raw and tell you. So it's like, so the second thing I do is like, how do I want to tell a story? Do I want to teach it to you? Do I want to teach you through story? Like educator, that's teaching through story.
Yeah.
And all of them are like that. And so that's the second thing that I do is, and then the third thing is, how do I want the reader to feel? Because that's how I
Yeah.
started the book. Because I want you to feel something after you read my shit.
Yeah.
You know,
Abdel's here. Welcome.
some books are meant to scare you away. Some books are meant to motivate. You know.
Oh, we got Abdel in the chat. Glad you're here. Glad you
What's
could
up,
join
my
us.
bro?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, people, if they're not reading your books, they're missing out on a lot of good game. I mean,
I got
like I
some
said,
good
I've
concepts
experienced.
coming up too, bro.
What's that?
I got some good concepts coming up too.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people out there. They say I don't listen to a lot of them that I guess they call them grifters or whatever that they talk about things like that, but they actually haven't experienced it. I mean, I can tell you've experienced it because I've experienced it myself. So, as I said, as I read the books, it reminds me of what I've forgotten long ago. Um, I guess those people serve their purpose. I'm not sure. Um, I know you've stayed away from reaction videos. What what do you think about that? I know you don't do that. I don't think I've ever seen you do reaction videos. Have you?
No, I've broken down videos. I've done a few reaction videos, but it'd be more like to teach people certain shit.
Yeah.
So my reaction is it's not manufactured, but it's like I already the same. See, that's the reason why I write my books like that because I just came up with that right because that's the way I teach.
Yeah.
I just kind of thought of that just right. That's the because that's the way I teach. I didn't really. Yeah, that's the reason why. Um,
Well, I know when you travel, you take a lot of I'll say footage, a lot of videos, and then you chop it up and use different parts later on too, don't you?
mhm. Yeah, we're vloggers when we travel, bro. You got to take advantage.
Yeah.
That's how you get your cold approaches up.
Well,
You're a creep. You got your camera out. No, you're a part of my blog. Oh, really? You see, boom, that fast.
yeah.
Magic.
What
You
do you
see,
think?
Abdul? That's why I'm the best. You see how I just taught you that in so fast? 5 seconds. You know exactly what I meant. Boom. Change your way. Boom.
What do you think that people? You tell people they should travel, and I agree. What do you think they could? How would that broaden their horizons, especially regarding women? Because that's what men think about. Oh, you know what they want? They want the women. They want to talk about women. What? How will that help them? Do you
Most
think?
of these women, these guys we seeing be trash anyway, bro. Like you got to go around different places. You just if you just happen to just land in the alley somewhere and went to that alley school and went to that alley foods place, and went to that alley grocery store, then that's all you know, bro. You don't even know it's way better stuff out here. You got to go
Yeah.
around this stuff. You don't even know what you like. You know what I'm saying? Like if I like Asian chicks, but if I didn't deal with none, I wouldn't even know I liked it. Just imagine if I was in a place with no TV and I've never seen one before. I wouldn't even know what I liked.
Well, I tell you, you know this too from the algorithm. When you start looking at certain things, at least on Instagram, they give you more and more of that. So it'd be easy for someone to think that that's a real representation of how women are. Let's say you start watching videos where women are always cheating on men. Well, the more of them you watch, the more of them they'll feed to you. So then you'll get to thinking that all women cheat. Well, the reality is, I don't think all women do cheat. I've had women. If you're being the man and being the kind of guy that you need to be, they have no reason to cheat on you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But the
No,
problem
no,
is,
like
go
because
ahead.
you might have even went through this. Like, um, people will say, "Hey, you're not, like if you were a school teacher, right? You ain't scared that they ain't gonna find out about you say some controversial shit." True, but people don't understand how big YouTube is, bro.
Yeah,
So if I'm a third grade teacher, bro, what do you think these women are watching on their fucking algorithm, bro? They're watching beauty tutorials, shit for their kids and shit like that. And just like you said, the shit they're not, even if they're not subscribed to it, they get more and more
yeah,
of that type of stuff. My shit is not going to just show up.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like out of the thousands and thousands of channels. If you go viral, then you deal with it. But my shit ain't
Yeah,
just pop up. Oh, it just happened to pop up at the principal, the superintendent shit. This is a black him. This is like no, bro. People don't realize just because we just talk about in the sphere, just as
right.
you know how many channels it is, bro, that don't do nothing. Like there's hella
I read the other day. It's I don't know. I read the number the other day. It's yeah, astronomical. Yeah,
Yeah. So
I
what?
can't remember
Some
what it
people just look
was.
like it's like a chance. Like they look at it like there's because the people watch YouTube, right? So they probably subscribe or watch maybe 10 to 20 channels, right?
Yeah,
For themselves. That's what they probably
right.
10, 5, 10, 20 channels. So they look at it like you're in that bunch and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like no, that's just it's only a small bunch of shit that you like to watch. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? But it's hella different stuff out.
and that's what
People.
they'll feed. That's what they'll feed you more of too. Whatever you're watching, you'll get more of that. But can you see how? Well, let's take Fresh and Fit for example. Shout out to Fresh and Fit. Okay, the women that he has on there. If you think, or if a person thinks that all women are like that, I could see where you would get jaded because most of the girls he has on there are pretty, how do I say, promiscuous or I don't know. They seem pretty wild to me. I don't see too many. I don't watch them all the time, but I haven't seen a show where I see a girl that I would like to wife up. I'll say it that way. So that could give a person a skewed idea of that what women are what women are like. Although it does help you to see how women can be and let you realize that they're not these little princesses that they're made out to be also. So there's two sides of that coin.
Yeah, you got to experience both sides though, bro,
Yeah.
to really
So
understand shit.
yeah, I've experienced both sides.
Too, bro.
Yeah. Well,
You got to feel that disappointment.
yeah. Well, you got to know the pain. You got to know the sorrow to experience the joy. I think you got to have a contrast. If you wouldn't know what hot was if you'd never been cold. You
Right.
wouldn't know what real love was if you didn't know what let's say well, hate isn't the indifference is actually the opposite of love. But yeah, when a girl if your girl says she hates you, you're still in there. But if she don't care about you, she acts like it don't matter to her, you're out because she's indifferent towards you.
Hmm.
There's a lot of difference between those two.
You're right, my brother.
Well, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I got a meeting to go to. Let you get some rest. Hope you're not getting that. And the stuff's been going around here. A couple of my kids got sick. Had to take my boy to the hospital a while back. He had a sore throat and had to get a thing cut off it or something like that. But the rest of them got over it. So you better get some rest.
Cool, cool. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate the
Yeah.
time. Appreciate the listeners, and catch the playback. Just send me the audio version of this. I want to try something with this. I want to drop this
Okay. I'll
shit.
do that. I'll have Frank send that. Yeah, Wade, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. Appreciate all you guys being in the chat. And we'll see you not next Saturday. I'll be at my son's fights unless he gets called up. But the Saturday after that, I'm having Roseman here. We're going to talk about his book, True Male Nature 101. And see you guys then.
All right,
Affy,
guys.
thanks again, Affy. Glad you were here.
No problem, man. You have a good day, brother.
Yeah, take care.
Peace, peace.